excuse his English.
And I don't speak Dutch.
Okay.
So, hello everyone. My name is Nicolas Charles. I'm here to talk to you about Rudder, which is a configuration management tool based on CF Engine. So we'll start with a brief introduction. I'm Nicolas Charles. I'm the CEO of Normation and the co-founder of Normation. Normation is a French-based company which is dedicated at configuration management related software, basically. I'm one of the core developers of Rudder, the open source software I'm going to introduce to you. And I believe a lot in open source. We all believe a lot in open source in Normation. I'm a CF Engine 3 user since basically 2009, the beginning of the Normation company, and I'm a CF Engine community champion. So Normation, we do software solutions, mainly two software solutions. The first is Rudder, a software to automate compliance and infrastructure. And we are using a lot CF Engine. We are partners since 2009. I forgot to specify that. If you have any question, you can ask them during the talk, during my presentation. Don't hesitate to interrupt me if you don't understand me, want to have some more explanation. And there will be also question at the end if you want to. So I'm going to introduce first configuration management. It will be very fast because I know most of you already know that. But just as a quick reminder, there were three waves in configuration. The first wave, the first era, was the craft, when people made themselves their own configuration on each server, literally petting the server, giving it a name, making sure it was perfect for what it was supposed to do. It was really detail-oriented. It was a very nice solution. The main problem of this solution is the scalability. You can manage 1, 2, 5, 10 servers like that, but when you get to hundreds, it's very hard. It's not very easy to share knowledge with other people, so each server tends to be configured in a different way. Then appeared the duplication bit a la Norton Ghost, if you remember. You have a golden image, you reproduce, you base your system on it. It's very fast. Once you've done something great, you can reproduce it somewhere else. It's a bit like what's happening with the cloud now, when you have instances that you pop in and out. The problem of this solution is it's not very great to have some adaptation based on something. If you want to tune or to modify something on different servers, you need an external solution. If you want to exchange the image format, it gets difficult. It's getting better. There are more and more tools to exchange format of image between, for instance, VMware, VirtualBox, Amazon, etc. But it's not the most easy solution yet. Finally, the central management. It's where we are now for most configuration management system. You automate your configuration of your whole infrastructure from a central point or from several central points. It's great. You know from one point what's happening. You give order from one location. You can share what you're doing with other people. They can see directly with this software what's going on. The main drawback is it's harder to use. You usually have to learn a new software, a new language in the worst case. So it's a bit more complex to use. Configuration management and automation are best practice, and several standards recommend that we should use configuration management. ITIL, ISO, COBIT, they all say you should use automation and configuration management. Even Gartner says that 40% of outage are caused by operational error. So not using automation not even configuration management, simply automation, cause about 40% of all the outage that appears. And using configuration management reduced downtime by 35%. That's great, but as you probably noticed, not everyone is using configuration management or any kind of automation. I think most of you are using. Who is using automation or configuration management in the room? CF Engine, Puppet, something? Yeah, nearly everyone. Great. You're doing good. Some don't have either the time or the skill to do that, unfortunately. So we created Rudder. Rudder is made to make configuration management easy and increase its adoption. So make sure that everybody can benefit from configuration management. How do we do that? We have two main axes. The first one is to lower the entry cost of configuration management. We nearly have no time to learn. It's very fast to learn to use Rudder. It's easy to use. When you deploy it, you can nearly instantaneously do something with it. And it's very powerful. It's based on CF Engine, so you have all the power of CF Engine within a web interface. It extends as well the benefits of configuration management to people that were excluded from it before. Managers, usually they don't use it. Junior sysadmins, they usually don't have the skills to do it. Non-experts. So the goal of Rudder is to make configuration management easy and that nearly everyone can benefit from it. Nearly everyone in a company, in an association, everywhere can use it. The key point of Rudder, it's designed for configuration management, of course. It's based on CF Engine. We ship with Rudder the agent, CF Engine, the CF agent, and it's what is installed on every managed node by the agent, by Rudder. CF Engine is a standard. It exists in 1993. It's very powerful, and we really love it. It does as well an automatic inventory. We ship Fusion inventory with Rudder. Fusion inventory is a Perl tool that does inventory, a complete inventory of the system. So it detects the software, but as well the hardware part. It can even look for all connectivity, the routers, the printers, etc. It's multi-platform. It works on Linux, Unix, Windows, Android. You can do everything with it through the web interface. So you have a web interface that gives you the complete power to manage all your system with Rudder. And it's, from my point of view, one of the key features of this software. You can do everything through this web interface and easily manage stuff. You have graphical reporting, so you know your compliance, you know when you are on track or not. We ship with the software as well a library of best practices, so we call them techniques. It's template of configuration. For instance, configure OpenSSH or manage files, manage services, etc., etc. It's with the software, and of course, it's open source. If it were not open source, we wouldn't be able to make it available to the widest audience possible. How it works, it's fairly easy. You have a web interface that you install on the Rudder server, and then you install an agent on a new node you want to manage. The node will send its inventory to the server. On the web interface, you will be able to browse all the inventory, see what's inside, make groups based on this inventory, so based on, for instance, the operating system, the host name, IP networks, etc., etc. You make groups based on these criteria, and you configure rules on these groups. Rudder will generate CF Engine promises. The node will fetch these promises, apply them, send back reports via syslog to the server, and you can see the status, the compliance on your system. I said earlier that we can have more people than usually work with configuration management. This is how. We have a part, the management, that decides what will be what will happen on the infrastructure. So it's management or somebody who does what the management says. So you define security policy, for instance. You define the change when you are going to upgrade your application to a new version, etc., etc. To do that, you have an abstraction layer, which is made by an expert of the service you want to manage, or an expert of the security policy, or even the community. The community can share with you some abstraction. And then the sysadmin can configure the parameters for this abstraction. It will generate promises. CF Engine will continuously apply them on the nodes and making sure that it's always correct and report to the sysadmins and to the management. We have a continuous checking within Rudder. On each node, the agent runs every 5 minutes. So you have at most a 5-minute non-compliance period. So you are pretty sure that your servers are completely, most of the time, completely correct. You have a clear separation between the configuration and the implementation. You have techniques, you have bricks that you can reuse in several rules, in several parts of the systems. So you can share data with others, share your implementation, and reuse it with other people within your structure or with all the community. And you have a clear separation of who does what. It's multi-platform. You can manage either Linux, Unix, Windows, Android from a central point. You don't need to have different installation to manage them all. And you have, of course, the reporting to know if everything was correct or not, or if the agent had to do something. So it was a bit theoretical, but with the demo, it will probably make a bit more sense. Trying to zoom. Okay. So this is the logging page of Rudder. I can't zoom, I'm sorry. Yeah. This is the logging page of Rudder. This is running on my laptop, so it's only a demo system. So I have only the demo user account. So you have role for users. You can log in with a username password, and each user can have different role and do different stuff in the application. So some can manage everything, so some can only see what's happening, etc. for security purpose. This is the main page of Rudder, the home page. On this home page, you have some statistic about the installation. So it's running on the laptop, so it's really small. I have only 2 nodes that I manage with Rudder, 4 routes. And you have the 4 main menu on the top: node management to manage the nodes, to make groups, etc. Configuration policy, that's the main part of Rudder. It's to manage or to configure all the systems. Utilities, it's tooling around the software. And administration, it's how to administrate Rudder. First, we're going to see the configuration policy. When I click on it, I see the list of all the rules that are applied on my infrastructure. I have 4 simple rules. One is the base setting that I want on all my Debian system. It checks some critical files. It makes sure that I have a message of the day to say that the node is managed by Rudder, and the time configuration. I see that the compliance of this rule is 100%. When I click on it, I can see that it's applied on 2 nodes, and they are both in success. Can click on the node to get more details about it. So I moved to the node management part. Here, it's the first node that I'm managing with Rudder. It's in 3 groups. The group node 1, which is a group that contains only it. A system group, it is all the nodes that are managed by this server and all my Debians. My inventory gives me some details about it. So the host name, it's a virtual machine, VirtualBox with not a lot of memory. It's a Debian 6. I received my inventory right in 10 minutes. No, yesterday. Sorry. I received my inventory yesterday, and I have root administrator and a lot of users. I can see the hardware, so it's a VirtualBox. There won't be much hardware, but still I have some process. Yeah, I have the processor, so that's the processor of my laptop. The storage, I have only one hard drive. The file systems, it's a Vagrant system. Do you know Vagrant? For those who do not, Vagrant is a brilliant tool that lets you manage your virtual systems, your virtual machine. You make a description of what virtual machine you want, and you just Vagrant up. It will spawn the virtual machine. You can do what you want with it. You can stop it, restart it, alt it, etc. It works with VirtualBox, VMware. You can automatically share some folder within the host and the virtual machine. So when you are developing stuff or testing stuff, it's awesome. So Vagrant, if you don't know it. It's written like that. Can you read everything on the back? Is it better? Okay. Sorry. So the network interfaces, you have 3 interfaces. The list of software installed, can even browse it. I do have Rudder installed on my server, on my node, which is a good sign. And all the reports on this node. The reporting made by Rudder is made to be as comprehensive and as understandable. Yes?
Is it all from the reporting tool, or is it fetched directly from the node?
So the question was, is it from the reporting tool or fetched from the node? The promises that Rudder generates contains all the reporting information that are sent back to the Rudder server via syslog, and they contain all the information necessary to generate all these details. So each rule I have one reporting that I can open. So it was the base setting that I showed you earlier. It has 3 directives. So the message of the day, critical file, and NTP config. And I can again drill down. I check some file or directory, and I was checking that groups, password, and shadow were not changed. They didn't change, so it's success. Same for NTP. I can drill down and see that time zone, I didn't specify a time zone. I didn't specify synchronization. The message of the day is very simple. That's only the message of the day, etc., etc. Everything is generated automatically based on the information in the technique, which is a template of configuration. And we can see as well all the technical logs if we want. It's all the reports that were generated by the agent. So it's raw information that we can use to see what's happening or when something was not going well. I can search my nodes here. I can make complex query to generate groups. So I could simply search all Linux, but it's not very interesting. I'm missing the right part. Yeah, sorry. I did zoom too much, so I can't see the right part. Sorry. Zoom out. Yeah. So I can search by operating system. I can search by network interface. For instance, the IP address is a regular expression matching 192.188.star. So there should be all as a. Okay. It should work. Ah, okay, it was a typo from my part. So I can search by IP address by regular expression. I can search by software installed. For instance, if I have Apache 2 installed, I should have 2 as well. Okay, I have 1. Brilliant. And I can create group based on that. So nodes with Apache 2. Each time I do an action, I can add a message on why I am doing this, so that people that come after can see why I'm doing this modification and understand the goal and revert. If they revert, they know why they would revert it. So that's my nodes with Apache. I can create the group either static, so it will be only this node that will be forever in the group, or dynamic. If I have a new node that have Apache 2 that appears in my systems, it will be in my group. I can make it in not specific group, and that's for the demo. By doing this, I arrive on the group page. So in the group, I have the list of all the groups I've made. Usually it's, yeah. I have on the left part all the groups, and on the right side the details, and I can change them. On each item there is a Rudder ID, which is an internal identification for Rudder. It's important because there is an API, and we can modify everything through the API as well, through a REST API. I'm coming back to the configuration policy. So my nodes are still correctly configured. This is a node where I put an Apache and I serve the file on it. So it's nothing much, but it's there. If I reload, it's still there. I'm gonna remove the file so that you will see that it's repaired automatically. It's not very impressive as a demo, but it's better than nothing. Up, down, not found. We'll come to that in 5 minutes. The main part of Rudder to configure stuff is the directives. The directives is the parameterization of a template of configuration. With Rudder comes a lot, about 40, templates of configuration. So some are very simple. It's to install packages on system, to configure the package manager, to make sure that a file contains something, and if it does not, repair it, optionally execute a command afterwards, set permission of files. So that's fairly simple. And we have more complex techniques. For instance, OpenSSH is fairly complex. Here, I will create a directive to manage SSH, but for the demo. When you want to configure a directive, you have a web interface, a web form that is automatically generated by the technique. So we have a descriptor for this form, and Rudder create it. We have a description that explains what it does. So this technique will configure the SSH service, making sure that it's running, and etc., etc. I can put my own description and a description for people who will understand why I configure it that way. And then we have all the parameters. So the configuration file by default is this one. You should not have to change it in case you have your own OpenSSH. We can select the port, the family address to use, so IPv4, IPv6. I will use only IPv4. Can change the port I'm listening to. So instead of 22, can put 5190 and no, not this one. Each time there is something that's quite complex, there is a small pop-up or hover that explains the meaning of the field. So here for maximum open session by network, it explains that it specifies the maximum number of open session per network connection. But on a Red Hat or a CentOS, it won't work because this option is not available on Red Hat or CentOS. We can deny root logging for SSH, which is good. Public key authentication by default. We can also let Rudder not change something, so keep the default parameters or the parameters that was there before and that you are not sure you want to change already. So maybe I don't want to change my password authentication and I don't want to change this one. So the value that was there before will not be changed. It's quite convenient when you are migrating from an existing to Rudder. I can save my directive and explain that I've created a directive for the demo and come back to the rule screen to see what's going on. Here, there is a change in my simple website. I have only 50% compliance. Indeed, my node 1 has been repaired. It was correct. It wasn't correct, and Rudder repaired it. Indeed, I removed this file. Yay! It's not that impressive, but it's good for a demo. So Rudder repaired my website by copying back the image that was not there anymore. So to configure a rule, you take directives. Here it's a list of all my directives on the left, and on the right, okay, so under you have the group. I configured SSH for the demo. I'm gonna use this configuration rather than the baseline. It will probably mess with most of the things, but it's not a real problem. And I save it. It will generate automatically all the configuration for all my nodes. Here, on the right, we can see that Rudder is generating promises. So it is generating safe engine code. It checks that the syntax is valid, and it makes it available for the nodes. I'm not very happy with this modification because I liked better my previous SSH configuration. I'm gonna revert this modification. So here we have the list of all the event logs. Everything that has been done on the web interface is tracked. So I can see that there's been a deployment because a deployment has been started automatically because I modified my rule. So this rule has been modified to change the SSH configuration from baseline to manage SSH for the demo. I'm not happy with this. I'm gonna restore to the state that was before it. And yes. And it's reverting the previous modification I've made so that I will have the previous SSH configuration, which I was sure was correct for this system. I can also export everything that's on. Yes.
Can you refer back to all the cursor instead of the previous?
Yeah, I can revert to nearly everything that was a modification. I cannot revert to deployment, but I can revert to change. For instance, I could go to the fourth page and revert. Could revert to this state, but I don't really want to do that. I cannot revert a revert, for instance. But I can export. If I am in a state I'm sure I want to keep, I can export everything. So make an archive of all I have. It will generate some files on the file system that I will be able to restore after. So this one, I can restore to this state at another point, or I can export it and put it on another Rudder server to exchange data between different environments that I don't want to have physical tie between them. I will continue the presentation. So a word on the architecture of Rudder. This is a typical CF engine architecture. So you have a CF engine server that makes file available for nodes. They talk to each other on the port 5308. They exchange metadata and file. Rudder works basically the same way by adding a new system. So it adds a Rudder server on top on the CF engine server. The Rudder server will generate files for the CF engine server. The CF engine server and the node will communicate on the port 5309 so that you can have at the same time CF engine and Rudder running on the system. And the node will send back information, extra information to Rudder. So they send the inventory on the port 80 and they send the reports of what's happening on the syslog port. And Rudder, based on this report, will compute the compliance of all the system. We are using CF engine as the agent on the nodes because we believe it's the best agent that exists ever. It has a massive user base. It is very secure. The scalability of the CF engine architecture is huge, is unmatched in terms of configuration management. There are some companies that are using it to manage more than 100,000 servers and more. It's autonomous. You can have agent on a system that's, for instance, in a submarine. In some submarines are managed by CF engine. So when they are on deck, they download their promises. They go to the sea, and when they come back, they take their new policy. They have been applying it autonomously while at sea, while they don't have any connectivity to anything. Choose a very small amount of RAM. That's for the demand. We couldn't at the time. It's an old capture, but at the time we couldn't capture the agent usage. But it's less than 15 megabytes of memory and not much CPU time. Less than 10 seconds per run. It has very little dependencies, OpenSSL, Tokyo Cabinet, PCRE, and for Rudder we need as well syslog to send back the message, but it's on every system nearly, except Android. This is the layout of the Rudder server architecture. A Rudder server is made of a web interface at the middle, the web application, which is within a jetty. It has also an inventory endpoint where the nodes will send their inventory so that they are added within Rudder. And there is a REST API that you can use to do everything that you could do with the web interface. Around all of this, you have in Git all the techniques. So all the techniques, which are the template of configuration, are within the Git. You can synchronize them with GitHub if you want. You can add your own techniques within it. You have the LDAP directory where we store all the inventories and the configuration for every managed nodes. There is a PostgreSQL with all the reports that are centralized from the agent. The web application will generate all the promises that are distributed by the CF Engine server, and the agent will apply these promises. All these components are with the Rudder package. You just have to type yum install Rudder server root. It will install all of this, and you have only to answer to 3 questions, which is the IP address or the host name of the server that the nodes will use to communicate with it. If you want to load demo data, and I don't remember what is the third question. Do you remember? Okay. Okay, so there is only 3 questions on the server. On the agent, you just have to yum install Rudder agent. It will ask where is the policy server, and that's all. It will work like that. We have packages for CentOS, Red Hat, SLES, Debian, Ubuntu, Android, and that's all. It is quite well. We may be a bit short of time to talk about technique expansion, so just a quick word on techniques. Techniques are CF Engine templates file. There can be several, and a descriptor. The descriptor is a metadata file that contains everything that is displayed on the web interface. I'm going to show that very briefly, but we won't have probably time to modify it. So here I'm on the Rudder server. All the techniques are stored on the file system in the /var Rudder configuration repository techniques. There is a so there is a list of folders that match exactly what was in the tree on the web interface. I will show a simple one. In the system settings, system management, so the message of the day, which is the easiest technique to manage. There are 2 files. The metadata and the message of the day configuration.st. The metadata is a big XML file. We are working on cleaning this a bit so that it will be more user-friendly. But basically, you have a description of the technique, so the name, description, the compatibility. If you can have several instances of this technique on the same system, so for message of the day, you can only have one on the system. You can't have several message of the day. The list of bundles of CF engines that it has to call, the templates file, and then all the web interface is described. So you have the sections. They have a name. They can be multi-valued or not, so you can add several of them. And the fields, which are inputs, they have name, description, constraint, possibly. So regular expression if they are not valid. Oh, sorry, I scrolled a bit fast. You can have select list, which will make a drop-down list that you can use to select several values, here yes or no. And then you have the CF engine file. The CF engine file is really a CF engine file plus some templating. So here, Rudder will replace the variable for MOTD by what was defined in the web interface. So I'm not going to change it because we are too short. Some quick word about the project, the open source project. Rudder was created in 2009 first and released in October 2011. We won the award from Black Duck, Open Source Rookie of the Year honorable mention when we released it. Now we release a new version of Rudder every 3 months. The last one was in July, so the next one will be at the end of October. The technologies are CF Engine. It's what is on the managed node. On the web interface, it's Scala. We have also a bit of OpenLDAP for storing on all the inventories and configuration, and Fusion Inventory to do the inventory of the nodes. The community is, for the moment, quite small, but it's growing. We have seven full-time developers within Normation. We have 8 official contributors, including Denis there, which is an official contributor. We have 12 other members, so there are people who are using it and sending bugs or just giving some idea of what should be in there. The website is rudderproject.org. All the code is on GitHub. There is a mailing list for the users. You can join us on IRC, on #Rudder, on Freenode, and we have a Twitter account, which is Rudder Project. How can we do money with an open source project? It's fairly simple. Our business model, we have support on Rudder with guaranteed SLA on contract. So if the SLA is not respected, we give you money back. We have also plugins within Rudder. You can make your own plugins to extend the functionality, or you can buy as well proprietary. I can't say it. Yeah, it's not open source. I can't say it. I'm sorry. Plugins. We have 2 for the moment. One for reporting that generate PDF files, and one for Windows. Windows is managed by CF Engine Enterprise. CF Engine Enterprise is not free, so we have to pay the license for the CF Engine Enterprise. We do also sponsor features. When you want something that's not directly on the roadmap, you can, but you want it faster, you can finance it to have it faster. We do training and we do consulting, of course. Some of our references, I won't say much on that. Do you have any questions? Yes? So the question is, if you already have a CF Engine installed on your system and you want to use Rudder, what will happen? Rudder and CF Engine don't use the same path for storing the promises. They don't use the same port to exchange data between server and agent. So this will not conflict. However, if you configure conflicting promises between Rudder and the existing CF Engine promises, you're likely to have some problem. So you will have to manage the migration by removing parts of your promises from CF Engine to add them back in Rudder. No, we don't have anything like that. What you can do, you can put all your existing promises within one huge technique and put it in Rudder. Rudder will deploy it by itself. You won't have reporting unless you want to change it, but if you do this kind of modification, you'd rather put everything in Rudder in the proper Rudder way.
Nog meer vragen?
Ah, oké.
Voor degenen die nog geïnteresseerd zijn en nog iets meer willen weten van het Rudder project, is Nicolas bereid om tijdens het eten nog een stukje technische sessie te houden. Dus als je daar interesse in hebt, dan kan je hiervoor plaatsnemen en dan zorgen we dat hier het eten gebracht wordt. Dus niet allemaal blijven zitten. Maar dan zorgen we dat hier het eten gebracht wordt en dan kan Nicolas nog dieper op de stof ingaan. En volgens mij weet hij ook echt alles van CF Engine, dus daar kan je hem ook het hemd van het lijf vragen. En dan wil ik Nicolas bedanken. Thank you.
Thank you.
Voor de...
Thank you very much.
Okay.